thanks everyone for joining us. We love doing these. We're going to dive right in. I know we have 6 different groups on the call today, which is great, from around the world as always. But it means we've got that many more great questions. So we're going to dive right in, and we're going to try to move a little quickly so we can make sure to get all the questions in. So we'll kick it off with George from Collectors Cantina.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me be a part of this. Appreciate it. My first question is, it was great. It was great to see that the Gaming Greats line is coming to the vintage collection and be available at more outlets. Why is the line being shared unlike the Black Series, and will the Black Series go ahead and become shared as well?
It's a good question, and you see this sometimes with different lines. The one that comes to mind is carbonized. You know, obviously, in Black Series has been across different retailers. In Vintage Collection last year, it was just Walmart, and it's basically just obviously with different scales, Vintage or Black Series. There's just kind of some different focuses by retailers. So right now, again, we were super excited for the Gaming Greats line. Glad to hear you were as well. It's planned as a shared fan channel exclusive, so all the fan channels, and that's the current plan moving forward.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Absolutely, thank you. All right, Tim from Bosk's Bounty. What do you have for us, Tim?
Hi there, thanks for having me on. So my first question is, the Gaming Greats figures and card backs look fantastic. However, fans did notice that all 4 figures were army builders, which make use of existing molds. Regarding Jedi Fallen Order specifically, the Vintage Collection is currently missing the 2 main protagonists, or the main protagonist of Cal Kestis. Does the success of the Gaming Greats subline directly affect whether all new figures such as Cal Kestis and the Second Sisters are made, or would they be considered in the main line regardless?
So it certainly helps when like any gaming figures do well. It helps to like kind of elevate any character in any gaming. Like if we see that's something that we found in like the Black Series Gaming Greats, is that those have been doing very well. So we've been trying to do more, and that's the reason why those got brought into the Vintage Collection. Is that we've been seeing a lot of success with those. Characters like Cal Kestis and like the Second Sister, stuff like that, are definitely more in line with like mainline releases if we were to do them. But it certainly helps when these kind of gaming great figures, when they do well, it helps us a lot to be able to pitch those other characters forward and be able to justify them more.
Awesome. All righty. Up next is Chris from Bantha Skull, or I think I saw some fans online calling you Big Tuna. So I don't know if that's your nickname in the fan community.
That's a joke with John Miko from the Facebook group.
All right, what do you have for us, Tuna?
Well, Tuna, Big Tuna is Bill Parcells, so I'll take it.
Yeah.
Will the winning figure from the TVC vote be released in the main retail assortment, fan channel, or some other format? Would it depend on which figure wins? 2 of the candidates could work as part of the newly announced Gaming Greats subline. 1 would work as part of another Skiff Guards 3-pack with, Velkin Tazeri. And I think Brett put that in just to make me pronounce that name on camera.
There you go. I know, if only there were a petition to get that figure made. I know that could be something. No. So basically, it's going to be the winning figure from the Vintage Collection vote will be on Pulse and Shop Disney. So it's purely additional to the line. It's not taking a slot away from any figure in the main line or the specialty waves. So it's purely an extra figure, but that's how it'll be delivered. In terms of the other figures, I think you asked about the Gaming Greats and the Skiff Guard pack. Right now, the plan is to just release the winner of that vote. There's no current plans to release any of the others. But that being said, nothing's 100% out of scope. And certainly we've seen the reaction from fans online, and we always take that into account.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All righty. Next up are Matt and Luke from Star Wars Sessions.
Hey guys, well done on the stream last week, by the way, guys.
Oh, thank you.
From Fallen Order, you're bringing out the Scout Trooper and the Electro Staff Purge Trooper in the Vintage Collection Gaming Greats. Is it easier to sculpt a model based on a character from the games because you already have that 3D graphic or render available?
I don't know if it's necessarily easier, but it's a little bit different. The games and animation characters, especially the animation characters, because they're so stylized, there's a bit more freedom in terms of how we execute those, just because we do the realistic interpretation of them. For the gaming stuff, it does help a lot that 100% we can guarantee that there is a 3D model. When it comes to like the live action stuff, a lot of times we actually do get 3D scans, but it's not guaranteed every time. Whereas with the gaming stuff, it is a guarantee that we are going to, like, there is a 3D asset of every single model. So that definitely helps there. Yeah, and it's just a little bit different too, just because, yeah, we, especially with those like animation characters that have those 3D assets, we kind of do the realistic interpretation. But yeah, characters, it does help in a lot of ways. Anytime we can get the 3D assets.
Nice.
Awesome. Alrighty, Paul from Mintinbox. Bonjour, Paul.
Hi, bonjour. It's another question about the Gaming Great collection. After Black Series, you declined the Gaming Great collection in vintage collections. It's due to a big fan demand, or it's just a test to see which one is more famous for fans?
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely due to fan demand. I think there's two things. One, I think we've due to some, like Eric on the team has been a big advocate for this, as well as some other folks on our team. Just the prevalence of gaming amongst Star Wars fans, and so I think you've seen us bring more gaming figures both into the main line and also into gaming greats, and obviously the launch of vintage gaming greats. So that's been one piece of it. And then obviously launching Black Series gaming greats, there was a lot of good comments from the vintage fan community about bringing a gaming greats to vintage as well. So I think as a result of those two things, one, the general trend, and then the specific request, that brought the vintage gaming greats about.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And finally, Carlo from Guerra Stellari. I don't show my pronunciation of that.
Guerre Stellari in Italian. It's good. It's good. I have a question about the Gaming Grids line. Now you have chosen the Purge Trooper and the Shadow Trooper, but why these two kind of figure or not other characters?
Absolutely, yeah, it's a good question. I think kind of for all the selections, both in vintage gaming greats and also in Black Series gaming greats, sorry, we tried to get a good kind of assortment of different video games so that it wasn't just one game, but it was representative because they are gaming greats across the whole line. Certainly tried to pick some characters that were just nice designs and looked cool, and also kind of had important roles within the game. So I think all those things led into the choice of those 4 figures for the vintage gaming greats.
Sorry, I don't even understand the last you tell, the last thing you tell.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of wanting to represent, a variety of different video games, and then also the general aesthetic of the figures.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, no problem. All right, back to the top, back to George.
All right, sticking with the topic of the gaming greats, are there any? I mean, some of the figures were released in the Black Series, that are going to be in the TVC. Are there any differences for them, or is it just scale?
Because we already had those figures come out in the Black Series, a lot of times we don't want to reinvent the wheel on a lot of these. So like when they do come into the vintage collection, we will take a lot of inspiration from those two different scales and make sure that not only do we know that it worked and was successful at the Black Series, but it also creates synergy between the two lines. Make sure that we don't have two characters that look like wildly different when they're supposed to be the same. So the execution on those characters between the two scales should be pretty much the same, unless we found like some efficiencies in some of them. But for the most part, we do strive to make sure that when we do the same figures across both lines, whether vintage collection gets to it first or Black Series gets to it first, we try to make sure that there's synergy between the two, so that way they don't necessarily clash if you have both. We want to make sure that they look the same.
Absolutely.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
No problem.
Awesome. All righty, Tim, you're up next.
Okay, so the fact that the Game and Greats has come to the Vintage Collection is great, because to me it does show that there is some diversity within the Vintage Collection. Without naming specifics, are there plans to diversify the line even further by bringing in like creatures and mini rigs such as the Ewok catapult that was released in Vintage Collection 1.0? Because since the Vintage Collection's come back, we haven't had any of those types of pack-ins, what do you want to call them, creatures, mini rigs, that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Certainly, this is something we mention a lot. The kind of world building of the Vintage Collection is something that's important to us and we know is important to fans, which is why HasLab has been a great kind of vehicle, pun not intended, for Vintage Collection with things like the Razor Crest. That's why we brought play sets back, and Talk Merrick's X-Wing feeds into that. That being said, totally understand that there haven't been any creatures or mini rigs in Vintage Collection 2.0. It's something we're always discussing. It's kind of finding a way to bring them to market, whether it makes sense through traditional brick and mortar retail, whether it makes sense through another channel. So it's something we're definitely discussing. And if and when we reveal something, I'm sure it'll be exciting to us and to you guys.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. All right, Chris, you're up next.
We assume the Shadow Stormtrooper is a repaint of VC-140. This mold is outstanding, but before too many more variants are released, can it be upgraded with rocker ankles? Collectors would buy a properly tooled OT Stormtrooper with rocker ankles by the container load.
So actually, I did speak to the designer this morning, and she said that she and we at the team have heard interest in the rocker ankle update for the Trooper from the fans. So it is something that we are considering for the future. So it is something that is certainly possible for that character.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
All right, Matt and Luke.
Hey, Patrick, it's nice to see you again.
Yep,
we last saw each other in London. We never did have that beer together, sadly.
That's right.
But maybe another time.
Hopefully we'll be back at conventions sometime in the near future.
We'd love to see you back, mate. We'd love to see you back. With the new publishing line underway, do you know if there's any plans to dive into this with new books and comics, such as the High Republic?
Yeah, so there certainly is a possibility. We are really excited to kind of show those new publishing characters. We're really happy with, especially like the whole packaging execution on them. We think they look really, really cool. And there is such a deep history in the entire publishing line, going all the way back to the 80s. There's just a ton of stuff. And obviously, as we now see more and more stuff come into the High Republic, it's something that we would like to look into. They're really cool designs. We kind of want to see like what characters come to the forefront, what characters are cool, what are feasible and stuff like that in terms of execution. But yeah, it's certainly possible that we could look into High Republic characters. But yeah, nothing at the moment to announce or plan or anything.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, Paul, you're up next.
Yes, it's a question about the new Racing's Black Series action figures. Why do you use a Clone Wars blisters and do not release an animated version of the Bounty Hunter and to prefer to the real versions?
So in terms of the Aura Singh character, because she has an actress that appeared in the Phantom Menace, granted she was a blink and you'll miss it kind of cameo in that, we wanted to have her be in the Clone Wars packaging because she just has a much bigger appearance and presence in the Clone Wars than she ever did in the Phantom Menace. But we did use the actress from the Phantom Menace as the inspiration for the sculpt of that. So that's the reason why she doesn't necessarily look exactly like her animation, because we did have an actual like live action actress to basically sculpt off of. And that's something that we do too with all of our figures, where we do the realistic interpretation of those animated characters. It just worked out really well that she had an actress.
Thank you.
All right, Carlo, you're up next.
Okay, for the future, I would like know if for you is more important Black Series or Vintage Collection to explore new way, new model, new chair tax.
So neither one is more important. At least, like they both kind of go after different things. Like Vintage Collection is more of the world building and trying to get those out and get focus on those, like the original 96, the original trilogy, and Black Series is more about those like trying to get, like, obviously the new collection and stuff like that. With a different scale, it lends itself to a different kind of collector, whereas like Vintage Collection really lends itself really well to that world building with the play sets, the vehicles, the X-wings. Obviously, we've done a bunch of HasLabs. All of our HasLabs have been focused on the Vintage Collection. So neither one is more important. They're both equally important, and it's just a matter of where those focuses are for each line, basically.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. All righty. George, round 3, kick us off.
All right, for the Wedge battle helmet, do we know how many like sounds and phrases are going to be like for the X-wing part and for the snowspeeder part?
So we don't have an exact number. It'll be comparable to the previous release that we had of like the Luke helmet that we had. So we have like kind of the background chatter, we have the kind of AT-AT sound effects, the TIE fighter sound effects. We have all those things that they're like zipping by you in the by you in the helmet with a surround sound speaker. But so we don't have an exact number, but it will be comparable to that previous release. But obviously you are now Wedge, so you will hear the voice and voiceover and chatter from all the other characters, whereas previously you were Luke, so you heard all the chatter from all the other characters. So
okay, thanks.
No problem.
Awesome. All righty, Tim.
Okay, so it's great to see a update on the Razor Crest, and the images, the teaser images that we saw looked really, really good. The paint apps look incredible. As we know, with the Razor Crest, you're packing in a child figure which comes with a vac metallized pram. I'm just wondering if the fact that that has a vac metallized pram, whether vac metallization would be considered to be used for future figures in the future, such as we still need a C-3PO on a Star Wars card, the Death Star droid. And I know that previously when the Death Star droids come out, he hasn't been that vac metallized. So just to get your thoughts on that, really.
Yeah, so we wanted to utilize kind of this opportunity with not only the HasLab, but with the pram itself, because it's a bit smaller, to be able to more explore the vac metallized process. It is slightly more expensive for us to develop, which is why we kind of started here. We wanted to kind of just get it through the ringer and make sure that everything was lining up with what we wanted, and made sure that it was feasible for what we want. So it's something that we are currently exploring. Obviously, since we have it on the pram, it's something that we are considering moving forward, and it's something that we're exploring. But yeah, we definitely need to make sure that we look at the pram itself and use that as kind of a test case to see the feasibility of it moving forward.
Okay, thanks.
Great. All right, Chris, what do you have for us?
So we know you said that the Vote from the Vault mock-up cards were not the final production cards. Having said that, it was conspicuous that you had punch samples when 4 of the 5 originally came unpunched. As a company, Hasbro was shipping unpunched cards to Target for the Marvel Retro line. Your competitor Mattel is likewise doing the same for their Masters of the Universe Origins line. Is there any consideration to bring the vintage collection back to its pure state of unpunched glory?
So a couple of things here. One, any kind of punched or unpunched in the mock-ups that we showed, purely accidental. Those were literally images from, it was just the image we had available from when they were first shipped, in most cases many years ago. But we're certainly aware that kind of the 2 examples you mentioned are happening. It's something we're definitely looking into. We're working with our Marvel team. I forget if we said this on this one or a previous one, but basically, we work very closely with our Marvel team, and if something good happens on one brand, it's probably a good bet it'll come to the other brand. We're basically seeing how that goes over. The one thing we're always aware of is that if they're unpunched, In the past, sometimes there's then been damage to the card of trying to get it onto the pegs at shelf. We know that if you're shipping it from an online retailer, kind of it comes perfectly unpunched, but we don't want to kind of have unintended consequences and make things worse in an attempt to make things better. But we're definitely aware of it. We're monitoring it, and it's something you could see in the future.
Great. And I'll just say that most people, when they do come unpunched, online for their carded sample, brick and mortar for their openers. So
yeah,
it doesn't have that much of an impact, I would say.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. All righty. Matt from Star Wars Sessions.
Talking about the vintage collection fan vote, we've got Ahsoka, a Republic Trooper, an Imperial Assault Tank Driver, Star Killer, and a Weequay from Return of the Jedi. How did we decide on those 5 for the fan vote?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a combination of, we certainly wanted a variety. Star Wars is a rich universe, obviously, and so we wanted a variety of different kind of entertainments and media represented. So obviously, you know, as you mentioned, we've got some video game figures in there. We've got classic trilogy. We have animation. And so we really wanted to represent that. We didn't want 5 choices all from the same movie, for example. And then certainly there are characters that our internal team thought kind of, you know, were worthy of bringing back. And then obviously also monitoring, as we always do, online chatter and forums. You know, we're aware of, you know, different brackets happening and different kind of online votes. And we certainly take all of those into account. And so it was a combination of those 2 things that produced this list.
Cheers, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you. Paul, you're up next.
Yes, it's a question about the new Rogue One X-Wing. Do you think we can have the Untucked Merrick action figure in the vintage collection blister?
Yeah, so good news. It actually will be on a blister card inside the vehicle. So this is something we mentioned on the live stream. It's a departure from what we've done in the past. We kind of recognize the importance of getting the main figure that interacts with the vehicle and getting it on a vintage collection card. We know the importance of that packaging. So yes, the Antoc Merrick X-Wing will come with an Antoc Merrick figure on a vintage card numbered within the package. And we'll reveal packaging for both of those at a later date.
Thank you. I missed this information. Sorry.
Oh no, not at all. It's a lot of things happening on the live stream. Carlo, you're up next.
Okay. Will we be able in the future to vote for choose another production for action figure like this time or not?
Yeah, so that's so the kind of fan votes and being able to vote for the production of like certain figures is something that we've done in the past. That's how we got a Jaina Solo, was that was through a fan vote. So and we were really happy with how the figure turned out. We obviously were just doing the fan vote that we released this during this last stream. That one, it was for re-releases to come back into the line. But it is something that definitely kind of looking forward. While we can't officially like say that like we are going to do it, it's something that we have considered and it's something that we have done in the past. So yeah, it's certainly a possibility to do that. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. All right, George, round 4, kick us off.
All right, so what's the size of the new X-Wing? Is it the same size as Poe's that was released, or is it a bigger size? Because I know some of them have been different sizes. So I'm just trying to figure out which one, you know, what's the size on this one?
Yep, so it's the same size as the recent 2019 Luke X-Wing, which itself is obviously based on a previous release. So it's what our designer calls a deluxe repaint of that item with some new stickers for the cockpit. It's about, I'd say like 20 inches long, 18 inches wide, and then 3 inches tall without the gear extended. So basically the same size as that 2019 Luke X-Wing.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely, thank you. Tim.
Thank you. Okay, so for many, the Antoc Merrick was the highlight of the vintage collection reveals.
Good.
And on the live stream, Patrick, yourself, you mentioned that you were aware of a petition with great respect to that petition, had just the 800 votes behind it, but you still mentioned it. Last year, fan channels came together to put a campaign and petition together for more newly sculpted figures in the vintage collection, which had over 9,000 signatures, or nearly 9,000 signatures rather. I think it's currently just over 8,800, I believe. How seriously do you take this petition, and what steps are being made to ensure that newly tooled figures are being made?
Yeah, it's a good question. The short answer is seriously. And I think we stated this first on our June I Am Your Father's Day live stream. I think that's the live stream we had after the petition was launched. And I think we announced at that time that we certainly saw kind of the market demand based on that petition and other things, and that we would be impacting the line moving forward. Certainly, I think I said on the live stream, Antok Merrick's X-Wing was my favorite as well. We didn't just do it because there was that petition. It was a confluence of different things. The petition, the fact that we're doing a mini beat around Rogue One, but, noted about the number of signatures. Yeah, it's something we've continued to say that we're seeing the demand from vintage fans, which is fantastic. We all want that. You guys want that. We want that. And we'll continue to see the line grow in the future. I think we announced on our January 29th live stream that 2021, and it's you got to make sure how you parse this, but 2021 would see more figures in the vintage collection in terms of new characters than any year since TVC 2.0 launched. And so that doesn't get into tooling. I honestly just haven't looked into that. But we hope to see that grow even further in 2022. It just, if we keep putting out a little more and that demand keeps being there, then I think we'll just keep seeing it grow and grow.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Chris, you're up next.
Are you able to discuss the $2 price increase for the Gaming Greats figures? While the fan channel wave is still the same price, is it specific to this subline, Gaming Greats, or can we expect it to impact the entire TBC figure line going forward?
Yeah, so it's specific to this subline, and you see this in Black Series as well. Gaming Greats, it's a little more expensive there than the main line. You've seen it with Carbonized as well. Obviously, Carbonized was a little more expensive in both lines. Basically, just there's a lot of factors, whether it's packaging, deco, or other things. That basically it just requires a small price increase to bring the line. We couldn't have done this line at the mainline price. So yeah, it is specific to this subline right now.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Luke, you're up next.
We know this one is really popular with our podcast community and many people beyond. Are there any plans to release a Ben Solo figure?
So while I can't speak to any kind of future plans, unannounced, unreleased stuff, we are always looking for suggestions on characters to do, especially now that we have this kind of new collection in the Black Series 4.0 with the new collection kind of plan for that with the different entertainments. So it is something that we would like to be able to build out each entertainment to be able to make sure that you have a good mural with those. But yeah, at the moment for Ben Solo, we don't have anything to announce right now. It's something that we have heard multiple times from a lot of different people. So it's something that we're actively aware of.
You have that power.
We do.
Make it happen, guys. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Awesome. All right, Paul, you're up next.
Yes, it's another question about the X-Wing. It was a real surprise to see a Rogue One spaceships. It's the 5th anniversary of Rogue One this year, and I just want to know if you're playing a U-Wing in the vintage collection, maybe for this occasion.
So one of the things that's great about the X-Wing was that we did have kind of an existing tool for that. While we do have a U-Wing kind of in the 3 3/4 5 POA line, it's not quite up to the vintage collection standard. So if we were to do a vintage collection U-Wing, I personally love the design, but it would require a lot more investment. So it's one of those things where we want to make sure that we look online and see if what the demand is for something like that, especially since it would be such a large ship. It's a really, really big ship. And it's something that it's a really cool design and something that we can consider kind of, but without any plans at the moment for the U-Wing, just because it would be a large investment.
Thank you.
No problem.
Carlo.
Okay. I'm from Italy. here we have a great problem to buy the action figure or other merchandising in pre-order. Amazon will erase all pre-order we can do tomorrow in the future. Hasbro Pulse will be able to sell directly in Italy too, or we can continue to buy from England with the datis, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. I mean, certainly I forget again if we said this earlier in this conversation or in a previous one, but obviously we're all on the same page here. We want to make it as easy to buy as possible. Obviously we're all on the same page there. And so we never want fans to have to, go to a different retailer in a different country. We want you to be able to buy locally. So certainly, it's good feedback about the pre-order process. We will discuss that with our Italy team. And kind of these conversations are helpful. And I think we mentioned this on the live stream. They're helpful in kind of learning about some of these things so we can address them. In terms of selling directly, obviously we are excited for Pulse to expand, to the UK in recent months. We'll see what the future holds, but it's certainly something we're discussing. But right now, obviously, Pulse is operating in the US, Canada, and the UK. But it's certainly something that we'll try to address for the future.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. All right, back to the top. I think this is our final round with George.
All right. So during the presentation on Friday, you guys had mentioned a difference in an issue with dealing with the antenna for Aurora Sync. Could you guys go into that again?
Yeah. So with Arsing, when we were looking at the reference, she has a really long, extremely skinny antenna that comes out of her head. You can almost like miss it in the reference that we had. Like it's really, really thin. So it's one of those things where we developed it internally, and as we brought it to the factories, it started to just get thicker and thicker, and we were really trying to make sure that it still maintained the same aesthetic of the original. So we think we got it to a really good place. We're really happy with where it is right now, but we did have to thicken it a little bit. And there's a conversation about whether we should even include it, whether we should just include kind of a pin for someone to put their own wire in. And we felt like ultimately at the end of the day, it would feel weird to not have it in there. If you just had a pin or if you just removed it entirely, because it is pretty iconic to that character, so we felt like it was important to have it in, but we did have to make some design concessions to make it a little bit thicker.
All right, thanks guys.
Thank you. Tim, you're up next.
Thanks. I believe you may have answered this a little earlier, kind of when you're expanding on someone else's questions, but it's regarding the vote from the vault. So while it's great that the fans are being consulted in a fun and engaging way, the figures chosen, with perhaps the exception of the tank driver, especially in the UK, are all highly sought after figures on the secondary market. They're all extremely expensive, so new collectors might not be able to pick those up. Many fans commented when they saw those lists of characters that all of them should just be released in their own specialty wave. So is that something you would consider in the future? Team Weekway.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think a couple things there. One, we've mentioned this before, but those what we call the specialty waves, those characters are all selected with an eye towards new fans and new collectors, whether they're young or just coming into the vintage collection, or honestly, they grew out of a conversation with our European markets because they wanted something like the archive for the vintage collection for fans who didn't get them 10 years ago and wanted the main characters to build their line with. So that's always the goal of those specialty waves. This vote from the vault is for the existing fans, which is why you see the characters that you do in there. Just to recap what I mentioned earlier, because Tim, you might kind of have your own stream for this. Yeah, the winner for this is the one we will produce. There are no current plans to produce the others. But that being said, obviously, kind of that could change, and years are a long time, and obviously, kind of if we get feedback from the community, that's something that could play in as well.
Yeah, I mean, if I can just come back to very, very quickly. Because basically, once you've got those people into the line by using those specialty waves, then they go out searching for the previous figures, and then they hit a Ahsoka that's $500 on the secondary market, for example. So they do eventually want those as well.
Yep, absolutely. And that's where we kind of have one or two repack slots in each mainline wave. Those are intended for the established fans. And so most of the time, those are a super articulated 3 3/4 inch figure that's new on a vintage card back. But we've done some like VC45, the Clone Trooper. I think that was last year. That was basically just a reissue. And so we can certainly pull that lever in the future. It's a good point.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Absolutely. Chris, you're up next.
I just want to say, echo everything Tim just said. 100% support what he said. General Antok Merrick's X-Wing was a great surprise announcement for many fans, particularly at Bantha Skull, where we've been campaigning for it for years. We're thrilled that Hasbro notices the fan request and that Volker's recent petition was specifically recognized. Will the carded Merrick figure be numbered? And please note that we are now officially desperate for an accurate astromech occupant for the droid slot in that X-Wing.
Absolutely. And apologies for calling out the specific petition. We definitely are aware and acknowledge that kind of your site and other sites were also instrumental in bringing this. The carded Antok Merrick figure will be numbered. Basically, aside from HasLab items, I'm trying to think of any other exceptions, but all vintage items are numbered within the vintage collection, even exclusives. Noted about the astromech occupant, it's a good point and something we could see in the future.
Thank you. Can you tell us the number by any chance?
I don't know it off the top of my head, okay. But it'll be a great number. One of my favorites. All right, Matt. I think you're up next.
Looking at the figures we've got coming out, we've got a lot from the OT and a few Mando, and the Fallen Order ones obviously set in and around between Sith and A New Hope. Are we looking at producing any more sequel trilogy figures, or indeed prequel trilogy figures as well?
So kind of to the point earlier, now that we have a kind of new collection that focuses on the entertainment specifically, it's something that we do want to look at to just vary the line. We're in a great spot right now in the sense that we just have so much entertainment to go after that we kind of had to prioritize which characters specifically we look at. Obviously, the Mandalorian is huge right now, and we have a lot of stuff kind of coming up. But we definitely like to sprinkle in sequel trilogy, prequel trilogy, all of those kind of things throughout. We don't have any official announcements right now, but I guess just keep an eye out of future live streams, and we'll have some other announcements coming.
Awesome.
Great. All right, Paul, you're next.
Yes, thank you very much for the update about the Razor Crest during the live. With the COVID pandemic, is still planned for the end of the years, and do you plan to add a book like with the Barge about the production?
Absolutely. Yep. Plan is still fall of 2021. No changes there. In terms of the book, that was something we did special with the Barge. I don't think other kind of brand HasLabs have done that either. That was basically, it was the first HasLab we launched as Hasbro. HasLab was kind of a new thing at that point, and we wanted fans to have something physical kind of in their hands right away, not having to wait a year. Now that HasLab is established and fans are kind of comfortable with that cadence and the amount of time, we prefer to kind of put our energy and our resources into the actual item rather than kind of spreading it across.
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely, thank you. Carlo, bring us home.
Okay, the last Razor Crest. When we know new details about price, the release date, when?
Yeah. So we did kind of tease an update in our live stream with that photo shoot that we had. So we do have updates, and we will release those as they kind of are appropriate. Once we kind of need to vet it out ourselves to make sure that we have enough to update it, because it needs to be worthy of an update to the public. And we will be having more updates kind of coming up. We have live streams coming up, so if we have an update, we will 100% share it with the public as that kind of comes in. And yeah, so we do have plans, and it will be soon, just on various live streams that we're doing.
May the 4th.
We'll see. Yeah. I think you also mentioned price and availability. Price is the same. There's no change there. And obviously the item's not for sale anymore. And then availability, as we mentioned, still plans for fall 2021. No changes there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I think that's it. We got through 6 different sites. I think 7 people on the call, 5 rounds, which is great. Just a quick thank you. We got to hop to our next one, but thank you guys as always. Obviously, this is just really fun for us to spend the morning talking shop with you guys. And obviously, I know kind of people are gathered here from around the world, North America, Europe. We really appreciate that, kind of knowing these it might be some funky time zones. So thank you guys. We look forward to doing it again sometime soon. It's a lot of fun.